Halloween from 2018, not to be confused with Halloween from 2007, is a sequel to Halloween from 1978 because why bother trying to come up with ideas for sequel titles when you have such an alluring brand title as Halloween, I guess. This one is directed by David Gordon Green, and it's set 40 years after the original film Halloween from John Carpenter. This, of course, it disregards every single sequel to follow the original movie, which I don't know. I had some reservations about. I kind of thought, I don't know, maybe they could have salvaged from at least Halloween H2O, but no, I guess not. They had to kind of had to define themselves in their own way with this film, which I guess is okay. I guess it's fair enough that you know there's no other way. I guess they could have done it without it becoming kind of confusing. I guess so. A fresh start, which is fine. This one actually it does have a similar concept, like a very similar general concept to Halloween H2O, and I actually watched these movies for Halloween for my 31 Days of Horror movie marathon. I watched them back to back, which is a very interesting experience to see how these two different movies do this same general idea, but in very different ways. H2O being 20 years later, still keeping into account the 1981 sequel, which was a continuation of the first film, so still technically taking place the same night. This one just scrapping everything, starting fresh with a new sequel. So it sees the return once again of Jamie Lee Curtis playing Laurie Strode, and again, similarly to H2O, she's suffered quite a bit from that first night. She hasn't forgotten it. It's taken its toll on her. And if in H2O she can kind of still function, at least somewhat normally, but still have this kind of darkness within her, the darkness is in full force in this different version, this 40 years after version of Laurie Strode. She's completely broken, and it's just completely taken her whole life from her. Basically, I mean, it's scarred her in such a way where she does become obsessed with survival and in being prepared, and this isolates her from her daughter, from her family, from everybody, and not just uh, metaphorically isolating her, but very literally isolating her. She's kind of living out in the middle of nowhere under guarded security. Well, not guarded security, but under like her. She's the guard, but under gated security, I guess I mean to say, and surveillance, watching every corner in the fear that Michael Myers may return one day. So this is very much a broken character, and very much a character who has been affected deeply by this encounter with this maniac in 1978, and having survived that horrible ordeal. And since this doesn't take into account any of the sequels, namely Halloween 2, we don't have that connection of brother and sister in this film. We more kind of see more of like a thematic connection between the two, because of course there's a few different new characters who come along into this film and kind of do like their own kind of armchair uh, analyzing of the characters. Like there's a pretty good psychiatrist character, Dr. Sartain, played by Halleck Billinger, who's fantastic, a great actor, actually great in this role. He theorizes that Laurie is obsessed with being prey and wanting to survive, while Michael, on the other hand, he's obsessed with being a predator, and these are the two traits that define each other. So I guess in that night in 1978, something just conflicted between the two, so they kind of just got almost like unstoppable force, immovable object kind of theory to it. So it created this kind of block to these two characters, which is kind of interesting in how they both kind of just lay dormant in a way. So there is kind of this, thematic yin and yang to the characters in a very interesting kind of way. I'll say that everything involving Laurie Strode with Jamie Lee Curtis is pretty much gold in the movie. I mean, once again, this is a very very different performance from Halloween H2O, and in general, I think Curtis, she's an actress who's constantly surprising audiences with her performances. She's always bringing something new. So even though she's played this character quite a few times now, there's always something new that she can bring to it, and especially so with this movie. She's again very distraught. She's isolated. She's drinking. She's breaking down a lot, and the only, like, her daughter wants nothing to do with her and all that, and the only semi connection she has is to her granddaughter Allison, who in this film is kind of meant to be kind of the new Laurie Strode. So this one, there's always a new version of characters from the past. The new Dr. Loomis and Dr. Sartain, and the new Laurie in Allison, and all that kind of stuff. Um, so I liked everything with Jamie Lee Curtis. I thought it was great, and uh, everything else, I'd say maybe it's a little bit of a coin toss. I've seen the movie twice now, and when I first saw it, I didn't like it that much. I was left kind of, I don't know, unsatisfied by it. So I was very much hyped for it, and actually I didn't. Unfortunately, I didn't see it in theaters, but I'd heard so many good things. And of course, it was a big hit, and now we have two more sequels coming along. Um, but I did eventually end up watching it when it was released to digital, and I don't know. Maybe it was the hype. Maybe it was just, I don't know, a certain type of expectation. So you kind of figure if this movie has the cojones to just axe every single sequel ever made and start afresh, it has to be pretty damn good, huh? And maybe that was kind of what affected me. But the qualms I have with it kind of range from fanboy kind of things. Admittedly, as a fan of this series, of this franchise, the good and the bad, I'll still kind of take. And the franchise itself it's kind of infamous for disregarding its own entries and things like that. So that wasn't too much of a problem for me. So uh, kind of the problem I had, it's just that there's a lot to take in. There really is. There's a lot to this movie, and I think the movie's it's kind of a mess. Or, well, maybe mess is an unfair way of putting it, but like it just has a lot going on. There's a lot of plate spinning in this movie. Where with something like Halloween H2, again, watching this, the both of them kind of back to back, and kind of comparing the concepts of the two, and seeing how they fared, and doing this reunion between Michael and Laurie. With that movie, I thought it was very simple, very straightforward, felt pretty short, and it felt like maybe something was missing. Uh, some kind of additional character could have worked, some additional kind of plot element could have worked. Here, they just throw in so much at you. There's a lot, and I'll say that it's kind of unreliable when it comes to just like general perspective of telling the story. Like, you kind of think the story is maybe going to be told through the perspective of these podcasters, these investigative journalists making this podcast, about old murders and things like that. That's how it kind of begins. They find Michael Myers in the asylum, and they want to interview him, and they're walking through the asylum and things like that, and it's a very movie like mental asylum, where like they'll play the gramophone, because I guess these types of places haven't progressed since cuckoo's nest, right? I don't know, but they're trying to get some information from him. They've kept his mask. They found his mask, I guess, maybe acquired it in the black market or on eBay. I don't remember if they exactly say how they got it and stuff like that. And so we're following them for maybe like the first 15 minutes of the movie. Then we get different characters introduced, and then of course they're killed. So it's like kind of like, oh well, whose perspective do we really trust here? But I don't think it was done in like a clever way, in like like the Psycho kind of way with Janet Leigh, uh, Jamie Lee's mom, of course. Not so much that. I think it was kind of sloppy in a sense because really, who's the main character in this movie? Is it well, certainly not the podcasters. Is maybe Laurie Strode is definitely a large chunk of her story. Maybe it is Allison's story. So take your pick, I guess. It kind of fluctuates. It goes between certain characters, and it goes on a lot of tangents, and it indulges in all these kind of non sequiturs of all the fucking annoying characters in the town, and like stopping short with these little scenes that I guess are supposed to be charming, supposed to be, I don't know, like Halloween directed by the Coen brothers, Fargo-esque kind of thing, maybe, I don't know, but we see like certain perspectives from the sheriff's department. Maybe there's something going on there, and then that kind of stops short. We stop for little scenes with the stupid annoying kids talking about you know catching us up as fans of the movies about self-referencing itself or self-referencing itself, self-referencing the whole kind of franchise. Where oh no, Halloween 2 didn't really happen, stuff like that. Not literally, but you know what I mean. Kind of clearing things up for anyone who may be confused, knowing that there's other sequels and stuff like that. And kind of like a scene with this child and his father, who's I guess gay, and the father doesn't like it. He's like, I want to dance. He's like, no, you should hunt. Well, let's just stop to talk about it for 2 minutes or so before we go to the action. He kills a kid. Okay, great, fine, whatever. Shtick between the babysitter character who we meet like one time, and the kid that she's babysitting. Oh, well, I'm gonna tell my parents that you're planning on smoking weed with your boyfriend. Oh, I'm gonna tell your mom about your browser history. Haha, charming. Um, Two cops talking about fucking sandwiches, like all this kind of just annoying kind of detours that we get in this movie. So I'm like, what's going on? This is a pretty sloppy kind of movie, just all this stuff put together. But I don't know. Maybe some people are charmed by it. I wasn't. I didn't think I wasn't that impressed with the way David Gordon Green and company, Danny McBride, also a writer on this film, kind of presented this world of Haddonfield, this magical Halloween night, I guess. Um, so there's all that. All that kind of got under my skin a little bit. But is it enough to ruin the movie? Maybe not. Because where it counts, I think it has some good stuff. Like obviously, it's cool to see Michael Myers back, the shape, and he gets some good moments. He has some good kills and some brutal ones at that. He really likes to, I guess he's been dormant for too long, for 40 years, I guess. So he has some pent up rage, and he's like smashing people's heads and stuff like that. And of course, I'm sure I probably warned in the description, but there will be spoilers in this review. Probably my favorite part. Well, we have this whole another fucking subplot with Dr. Satir or Satarn or whatever. Dr. Waluigi, I guess, whatever. He's obsessed with Michael, and he wants to learn the ways of the shape and all that stupid stuff. And Michael turns on him, obviously, because you can't cage this evil. And he smashes his head. He stomps on his head, which was great. It was really cool to see. And the last act with Laurie and seeing what she has been doing, and what her preparations have been, and this whole kind of funhouse of traps and stuff like that, just waiting for the night, for Halloween, for the shape to come back, and all that kind of stuff. So all that was cool, and it's a brutal kind of showdown. Like he gives it to her pretty good. He smashes his head through the door, and like he's smashing her, and then shoots his fucking hand off. It's cool. It was some cool stuff in the movie, and the horror hound in me definitely found that you know compelling and enjoyable. So I mean, it's definitely not a complete loss. This movie, there's plenty to enjoy about it. But I just guess that in in having this concept and having this title of Halloween and disregarding all the sequels again, maybe it was my own expectations. I guess this was a subverting expectations kind of movie. I don't know. I just thought maybe it'd be kind of like the be all end all of Halloween's, which it wasn't really. I mean, there's some annoying stuff about the movie. Like I won't let it go about the title. I think that's a really stupid thing. I think that's you know pulling a move like that. I think it really takes the audience for suckers. Like I hate when they do that. Like when they make a sequel, uh, not a remake, because of course you expect it from a remake. But when they make a sequel that has the same title as the original movie, like Ghostbusters or The Thing, the Thing being the prequel to John Carpenter's The Thing, not the remake of The Thing, but whatever. I hate when they do that, and I hated the title of this movie. I think it was originally going to be called Halloween Returns, which would have been fine. I would have loved that. I thought that would have been perfectly acceptable, but I thought it was a stupid title. I thought there were stupid characters, as there are in horror movies, but I don't know. I thought they were especially annoying. Like, the whole uh, group of teenagers was possibly even more annoying than what we saw in Rob Zombie's Halloween, which is quite a feat. They're quite annoying and just kind of reeked of old men in their 40s writing teenagers today kind of thing, which whatever. Um, and I don't know, like just kind of like all the little references that they do, it gets kind of obnoxious. Like I hate when they do that too in these types of movies, in these new kind of sequels. We'll have to do the callbacks, we get the little references here and there, like while they do completely disregard the sequels, they certainly make a fair amount of references to them. Like the whole section where Michael kills the podcasters, it almost kind of feels like kind of this mix of Halloween H2O, where that lady was in the bathroom and Michael was there. It kind of feels like that, and it kind of feels like Halloween 4, where of course that's where Michael he has to get that jumpsuit, right? I mean, he has this fashion sense about him. Um, so of course, but and oh yeah, and we see we catch a glimpse of the silver shamrock costumes from Halloween 3, of course, and other references. I'm like I'm sure a good number of lines were also replicated from the original movie. And we have this scene with Allison, the new Laurie Strode. She's sitting in the classroom. They're teaching the same thing as they do in the original Halloween, and she looks out the window, but it's not Michael Myers, it's Laurie Strode. So a little bit of a switch there. Very clever. Yeah. Okay. Great. Yeah, just do your own thing with these movies. I mean, I don't need to be, you know, just barraged with all these kind of callbacks. I truly do hate that kind of stuff. Not just with this movie, with plenty of other new movies, like any like Star Wars, Terminator, Alien. Alien is an offender of that as well. So I think they need to just stop short on all of that. It's not needed. Just do your own thing. References are fine. Like I mean, they reference Loomis and stuff like that. They have a kind of this scene where Laurie's listening to tapes with like a Donald Pleasant sound alike. That's absolutely fine. It's the callbacks. It's the little echoes of lines that I don't quite like that much. Um, so all that kind of hindered the movie a little bit. Like, there's some annoying things about annoying characters, annoying teens. Oh yeah, and the dad is annoying. Allison's dad, very annoying. Though Judy Greer is good. I love Judy Greer. She's wonderful, playing Laurie's daughter, who she's not a one-noted character, which I like. We understand her perspective of of having to live this life where her mom's kind of this crazy survivalist, and she resents her for that, and she doesn't really believe her when the threat is really coming. So that's fair. I thought they did a good job with that character. So I mean, I guess the best way to put it, it's a mixed bag. There's a lot to like about this movie. There's some really great stuff that they do with not just the Laurie Strode character, but its own characters and certain ideas that it has. And there's a lot of bad stuff too. A lot of just teeth grindingly annoying kind of stuff that I didn't like that much. But as a horror movie, I think it delivers. I think it has kind of the good kills, good atmosphere for the most part. For the most part, excellent music. Expecting no less from John Carpenter, who did the score. He was also an executive producer. Jamie Lee Curtis was an executive producer too. So, way to go, guys! EP, not bad. But it's a mixed bag. I'll say that. So I mean, with David Gordon Green, it's always kind of a coin flip whether he's gonna create something kind of, I don't know, truly special, truly good, or just horrible movie. This is, I don't know, maybe somewhere in between. Uh, for all the faults I have with the movie, I'll say overall it's okay. Having watched it twice now and kind of being more prepared for what was ahead of me and kind of what they've laid out and kind of the roadmap that they set up, it felt less, I don't know, less exhausting going through all this kind of stuff that they throw a lot at you. They could have trimmed down some character stuff. They could have cut out scenes entirely. I wouldn't have missed it. So it's a strange thing in having these two anniversary reunion movies, the Halloween H2O and the Halloween H40, in taking these similar concepts of Laurie Strode and Michael Myers back in conflict again, either 20 years later or either 40 years later, and seeing what they do with that and how differently they approach that concept. So it's an interesting thing, and I think they're both worthy movies. Though maybe I'll say I kind of prefer H2O, but that's just me. But maybe that's not the most popular opinion. But it's a fine movie, Halloween 2018. It's all right. I'm not over the moon for it. I don't think it's the greatest thing ever, but at the same time, I'm very happy for its success. It's a great thing that Halloween is kind of after kind of the Rob Zombie movies, which it left a bad taste in a lot of people's mouth. It's great to see it kind of on top again, the Halloween franchise, and we have two more to look forward to. They actually just shared some behind-the-scenes teaser footage today, Halloween, which is very compelling. So I very much look forward to Halloween Kills. So keep them coming. I'm very interested in seeing more of Michael, more of Laurie, more of Halloween. So thank you very much for watching. Thank you very much if you've been watching this whole 31 Days of Horror movie marathon on my channel. Had a lot of fun doing it, and revisiting old favorites and making some new ones. And if you have been watching, I thank you very, very much. So be sure to comment, rate, subscribe, all that good stuff. Stay scared, and until next time, I'll see you later.